We can't afford it. Those 3 words defined my entire childhood. My mother said them when I asked for new shoes in 5th grade, holes wearing through the soles of my sneakers. My father said them when I got accepted to the gifted program that required a $50 deposit. They said it so often it became a refrain, a mantra, the backdrop to every dream I ever had to abandon. So I worked. At 14, babysitting. At 16, waiting tables. At 18, juggling 3 jobs while taking community college classes. I wore thrift store clothes, ate ramen for dinner, and sent every spare dollar home because my parents said they couldn't make rent. Then, at 23, while helping my father with his taxes, I accidentally opened the wrong file and saw a bank statement showing $340,000 in an account I'd never heard of. While I'd been working myself to exhaustion, living on 4 hours of sleep, they'd been sitting on a fortune and watching me suffer. That was the day I stopped being their daughter and became their reckoning. Before I tell you what I did with that information, tell me where you're listening from, so I know I'm not the only one who learned that sometimes the people who taught you to sacrifice everything were sacrificing nothing at all. From the outside, the Hartley family looked like survivors. Blue-collar, hard-working, stretched thin but making it work. My father, David Hartley, drove a delivery truck for a packaging company. My mother, Susan, cleaned houses 3 days a week. We lived in a small rental house in a working-class neighborhood outside Pittsburgh, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business and nobody had much to spare. My name is Jade Hartley. I'm 26 now, a forensic accountant specializing in asset recovery and financial fraud. People find that ironic when they hear my story. I find it fitting. Growing up, poverty wasn't just our reality. It was our identity. My parents talked about money constantly, how we didn't have it, how bills were piling up, how the landlord was threatening eviction again, how the car was one breakdown away from the junkyard. Every conversation ended with some version of, "We're barely keeping our heads above water." I believed them. Why wouldn't I? The house was old, drafty, the carpet stained from decades of tenants before us. We never went on vacation, never ate out. Christmas meant 1 gift each, usually practical: socks, school supplies, a winter coat from Goodwill. My parents drove beat-up cars, wore worn clothes, and projected an image of people hanging on by their fingernails. So I did what any loving daughter would do. I tried to help. I started babysitting at 14, charging $5 an hour and saving every penny. At 16, I got a job at a diner, working Friday nights and weekend mornings. The tips were decent, and I'd bring home $80 or $90 a week. My father would be waiting when I got back, hand out, explaining that they were short on the electric bill or the car insurance was due. "Just until we catch up," he'd say. I always gave it to him. Every dollar. Because that's what family did. When I was 17, I got accepted to a summer program for students interested in STEM careers. Full scholarship, room and board included, 2 weeks at Penn State. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to meet professors, tour labs, maybe earn college credit. But I needed $200 for books and materials. "We can't afford it," my mother said, not even looking up from the sink where she was washing dishes. "It's a scholarship," I said, voice small. "Everything else is paid for. Just the $200. Do you think we have $200 just lying around?" My father snapped from his recliner. "We're barely making rent, Jade. You need to think about the family, not yourself." I didn't go to the program. Instead, I worked double shifts that summer, bringing home every paycheck and handing it over. By the time I graduated high school, I'd saved nothing. Every dollar I earned went to my parents, who said they needed it to survive. I applied to community college because it was cheap, took out loans because there was no other way, and kept working. Waitressing at the diner, stocking shelves at a grocery store, and cleaning offices at night. 3 jobs. 18-hour days. 4 hours of sleep. I told myself it was temporary. Once I graduated, got a real job, things would get better. But my parents' needs never stopped. Every month, there was a new crisis. The furnace broke. The roof was leaking. They needed money for medication, for car repairs, for property taxes they couldn't cover. I gave them everything, and I was proud of it. Proud to be the daughter who didn't abandon her struggling parents. Proud to sacrifice so they could survive. Then I found the account. It happened on a gray Saturday in November. I was 23, 2 years into my first real job as a junior accountant at a mid-sized firm. My father had called, frantic, saying he'd screwed up his tax return and needed help before the filing deadline. "Can you come over tonight?" he asked, voice tight with stress. "I don't understand this W-2 stuff. They're saying I owe penalties." I drove to their house, still the same rental, still shabby, and found my father at the kitchen table surrounded by papers. My mother hovered nearby, wringing her hands. "I just need you to look at this," he said, pushing a laptop toward me. "Make sure I didn't mess anything up." I sat down and started reviewing. His W-2 from the trucking company, some 1099 forms, medical expense receipts. Standard stuff. But while navigating through his files, I accidentally clicked on the wrong folder. And there it was. A PDF labeled PNC Statement, November 2023. I opened it without thinking. Just another document to review. Then I saw the balance. Account balance. $342,788.14. I stared at the screen. Read the number again. Checked the account holder name. David and Susan Hartley. Joint account. My hands went cold. "Dad, what is this?" He looked up from his papers, saw the screen, and his face drained of color. That's not what you think. "It's a bank statement," I said slowly, my voice oddly calm, "with over $300,000 in it." My mother stepped forward, her expression shifting from worry to something harder. "That's none of your business, Jade." "None of my business?" I scrolled through the statement. Deposits going back years. Interest accumulating. Transfers from other accounts. You have over $300,000, and you've been telling me you can't afford rent. "It's not that simple," my father said, standing up. "That money is for emergencies. I've been working 3 jobs." My voice cracked. "I dropped out of the summer program because you said you couldn't afford $200. I've been sending you money for years because you said you were barely surviving. We never asked you to." My mother started. "Yes, you did." I was standing now, the chair scraping back. "Every month. Every time I got paid. We're short on rent. The car needs fixing. The electric's getting shut off." All of it was a lie. My father's jaw tightened. "We were teaching you responsibility. Work ethic. You think money just grows on trees. You were stealing from me." The words came out raw, broken. "I gave you everything. I worked myself to exhaustion. I have $30,000 in student loans because I thought you needed my help to survive. And you've been sitting on $333,000. That's our retirement," my mother said coldly. "We saved that money. We earned it. You have no right." "Where did it come from?" I interrupted, something clicking in my mind. "You drive a truck. She cleans houses. How do you have $340,000? Silence. I looked back at the laptop, scrolling through the transactions. And then I saw it. Regular deposits. Large ones. Going back 15 years. "Inheritance," I said quietly, the pieces falling together. "Someone left you money." My father looked away. "Who?" I demanded. "Your grandmother," my mother said finally. "My mother. She passed away when you were 8. She left us $280,000. I remembered my grandmother. Vaguely. A kind woman who smelled like lavender and always had butterscotch candies. I'd been at her funeral, watched my mother cry, believed her grief. "And you never told me?" "You were a child," my father said. "It wasn't your money. But my college fund was." I shot back. "My paychecks were? Every dollar I made that you took, that was yours too. We gave you a roof over your head," my mother said. "Food. Clothes. You owed us." "I don't owe you anything," I said, my voice shaking. "Not anymore." I grabbed my coat and walked out, leaving the laptop open on the table, the bank statement glowing like an accusation. I didn't speak to them for 3 days. They called, texted, left voicemails ranging from defensive to apologetic to angry. I ignored all of it. Instead, I did what I do best. I investigated. I pulled my own financial records going back to when I was 16. Every paycheck, every cash withdrawal, every Venmo transfer to my parents. I documented it all. 8 years of contributions, rent payments, loans they'd never repaid, emergency money that was never an emergency. By the time I finished, the total was staggering. $43,670. $43,670. That's how much I'd given them while believing they were on the verge of homelessness. I sat in my apartment, staring at the spreadsheet, and felt something inside me break and rebuild at the same time. Not just anger, clarity. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Rachel Bowen, a family law attorney who specialized in financial elder abuse and fraud. When I explained my situation, she was quiet for a long moment. "Let me make sure I understand," she said carefully. "Your parents had significant savings and assets, but they solicited money from you under false pretenses? Made you believe they were in financial distress?" "Yes. And you were a minor when this started?" "I was 16 when I started giving them money regularly." She exhaled. "That's financial exploitation of a minor. It's actionable. We can file a civil suit for restitution and fraud." "But Jade, I need to be honest. This will destroy your relationship with your parents." "They destroyed it first," I said quietly. "Fair enough," she replied. "Let's get started." We filed the lawsuit 3 weeks later. My parents received the papers on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a process server while they were eating breakfast. My father called immediately, furious. "You're suing us?" "Your own parents. For the money you stole from me, yes. We didn't steal anything. You lied about your financial situation to solicit money from a minor and a young adult. That's fraud. That's theft. My lawyer says we have a very strong case." My mother got on the line, her voice breaking. "How can you do this to us? We raised you. We sacrificed." "You sacrificed nothing," I said, my voice steady now. "You watched me sacrifice everything while you sat on a fortune. That wasn't love. That was exploitation." "We'll fight this," my father hissed. "We'll drag you through court. Everyone will know what kind of daughter you are." "Good," I said. "Let them know. Let everyone know what kind of parents you are too." I hung up and blocked both their numbers. The case took 7 months. My lawyer filed for restitution, fraud damages, and emotional distress. My parents hired their own attorney, a man who tried to argue that their money was separate from what I'd voluntarily given them. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bank statements showing their wealth. My financial records showing my contributions. Text messages where they'd begged for money, claiming emergencies that never existed. Emails where my father said they were on the verge of eviction, while sitting on $300,000. The court wasn't sympathetic to them. During a deposition, my father tried to justify it. We were teaching her the value of hard work, responsibility. She needed to learn that life isn't easy. "By lying to her?" My lawyer interrupted. "By taking money from your teenage daughter while you had more than $250,000 in the bank." He had no answer. The judge's ruling came in April. My parents were ordered to pay me full restitution, $43,670, plus $15,000 in punitive damages for fraud and all my legal fees. Total, $67,000. When the verdict was read, I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired, hollowed out, but also strangely free. My parents didn't attend the final hearing. They sent their lawyer, who accepted the judgment in stony silence. The money was transferred to my account within 30 days, deducted from their precious hidden savings. I used part of it to pay off my student loans. The rest I put into a real savings account, one they'd never touch. 6 months later, I got a letter from my mother. Handwritten, 3 pages long. She didn't apologize. Not really. Instead, she explained how my grandmother's inheritance had felt like a safety net they couldn't touch, how they'd been terrified of losing it, how they'd convinced themselves that making me work, making me contribute, was teaching me resilience. "You were always so capable," she wrote. "So strong. We thought you'd be fine. We thought you'd understand someday." I read it twice, then filed it away without responding. Understanding and forgiveness aren't the same thing. I haven't spoken to my parents in 2 years. They tried reaching out a few times, birthdays, holidays. I don't respond. They made their choice when they chose money over honesty, when they chose comfort over my well-being. Last month, I bought my first house. Small, cozy, fully mine. No landlords. No lies. No hidden accounts. I thought about sending them a photo, a petty little "look what I built without you" moment. But I didn't, because the truth is, they're not part of my story anymore. They're just a lesson I had to learn the hard way. These days, I work with clients who've experienced financial abuse. Children exploited by parents, elders manipulated by family, spouses drained by partners. I help them document, recover, rebuild. People ask me how I stay detached, how I don't let it hurt. I tell them I don't stay detached. I let it fuel me. Every case I win, every dollar I recover for someone who was lied to, manipulated, exploited. It's me rewriting my own story. Over and over. Proving that you don't have to accept the narrative someone else writes for you. That your worth isn't measured by how much you're willing to sacrifice. That walking away from people who hurt you isn't cruelty. It's survival. A few weeks ago, I ran into an old neighbor at the grocery store. She asked about my parents, said she'd heard we weren't talking. Such a shame, she said, shaking her head. Family is family, you know? You should forgive them. They're getting older. I smiled politely and said, they taught me a valuable lesson about money, that it shows you who people really are. She looked confused. I didn't explain, because the truth is, some people will never understand. They'll always think blood means loyalty, that forgiveness is owed, that family excuses everything. But I know better now. Family isn't who shares your DNA. It's who shows up, who tells the truth, who doesn't make you pay for love. And my parents, they stopped being family the moment they chose to watch me struggle while they hoarded a fortune. If you've ever been lied to by the people who were supposed to protect you, if you've ever sacrificed everything for people who were sacrificing nothing, if you've ever had to choose between loyalty and self-respect, you know this feeling. It's not revenge. It's not even anger anymore. It's just the quiet, cold clarity of knowing you deserved better. And finally believing it. Share your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to know they're not the only one who had to walk away from home to finally find peace. And subscribe for more stories about learning your worth when the people who should have taught you never did.